5:43-21. We have start. It has been 45 years since NASA sent off the Explorer 1 space apparatus into the planetary group. Even though the shuttle was simply worked to most recent 5 years, it's actually voyaging through previously unheard of pieces of the universe. Yet presently, this amazing space apparatus is beginning to send some odd information back to NASA, leaving quite a large number of the space organization's top researchers confused. Today, we'll be investigating a portion of the odd information being sent over by the Explorer 1 shuttle. Let's start. The historical backdrop of the Explorer program began in August of 1977, when NASA sent off the Explorer 2 shuttle to experience Jupiter and Saturn, previously advancing toward Uranus and Neptune. A few days after Explorer 2 was sent off, its twin rocket Explorer 1 was sent off too. Both of these space apparatuses were almost indistinguishable. They weighed about equivalent to a small vehicle. The main piece of this entirety mission was to send off them at simply the perfect opportunity. There was an extraordinary window of opportunity that NASA saw in 1977 where the planets of interest were flawlessly adjusted for productive investigation. During this window, every rocket could move from one planet to the next without going amiss a lot from its way. Anyway, NASA purposefully added a 16-day hole with the goal that the two would have marginally various ways. Along these lines, in December of 1977, only months after the send-off, Explorer 1 went by its kin. Regardless of being sent off later from that point onward, that day, Explorer 1 became one of NASA's most important resources for making new and invigorating space revelations. Explorer 1 initially began sending Jovian pictures back to Earth in 1978 when it was around 265 million kilometers away from our planet. A year later, the space apparatus spent more than 100 hours catching right around 4,000 pictures of Jupiter, assisting us with making the very first time-lapse that shows off the gas giant's turn. A month after that, it became the principal space test to discover Jupiter's ring alongside 2 new moons. Its next excursion was toward the planet Saturn, and on the manner in which it needed to somewhat shift its course to keep away from a collision with quite possibly of Saturn's largest moons, Titan. During Explorer 1's circle of Saturn, it found 4 moons and sent various new pictures of the ringed planet back to NASA. After this, NASA concluded the time had come to end the Explorer 1 mission, while Explorer 2 would proceed its rush to the ice monsters of Uranus and Neptune before long, turning into the first space apparatus to do so. Explorer 1 would start its excursion to arrive at the outside of our planetary group. The Explorer interstellar mission formally began in 1990, a ways off of around 6 billion kilometers away from the Sun. Explorer 1 sent back dazzling pictures of various different planets, taking the very first family photograph of the nearby planet group. At this point, the space apparatus had dominated 67,000 pictures, and with that, NASA's need for its cameras had reached a conclusion. After this, NASA switched off Explorer 1's cameras with an end goal to ration power. In 1998, 10.3 billion kilometers away from the Sun, the space apparatus passed by the Trailblazer 10 space apparatus sent off by NASA in 1972. Up until that point, Trailblazer 10 had been the farthest man-made object from Earth. However, presently the title had a place with Explorer 1. It kept on extending its lead by very some distance as it moved towards interstellar space. Despite the fact that its cameras were off by this point, NASA still had various instruments to speak with the rocket. Explorer 1 effectively left the nearby planet group and entered interstellar space in 2012. Despite the fact that NASA wouldn't make a public declaration of the achievement until 2013, it was presently creating some distance from the Sun at a speed of 61.7 kilometers per hour. Its sister space apparatus, Explorer 2, wouldn't leave the nearby planet group until 2018. By that year, Explorer 1 was about 14.5 billion kilometers away from the Sun. It kept on conveying messages back to NASA that uncovered increasingly more about what's inside and beyond our planetary group. Yet at this point, Explorer 1 has lost some of its coordination and is beginning to send some weird signals back to NASA. Most of these signals couldn't be interpreted by a portion of the top researchers on the planet, and it seems like the shuttle itself doesn't know precisely where it is. The rocket has been pre-programmed to send an extraordinary alarm arm to NASA in the event that it at any point gets derailed in space. It's still impeccably fit for doing so. Yet, notwithstanding the confusing signs, that alarm hasn't been rung yet. On top of that, Explorer 1's radio wire is apparently in amazing well-being, and it keeps on speaking with NASA consistently. However, NASA is presently less certain about the reports that the receiving wire is sending. Until further notice, Explorer 1 is as yet fit for taking orders from Earth and doing them in interstellar space. Considering the rocket was planned in the 70s, it's a demonstration of exactly how sweeping NASA's innovation has consistently been. Notwithstanding all that, NASA accepts that the signals being sent from Explorer 1 are definitely not an exact portrayal of what's actually occurring on the space apparatus. So what's truly occurring on board, you may be pondering? Well, NASA prepares all of their rocket with particularly planned gold-plated plate. This circle conveys exceptional sound and video messages in the remote possibility that it at any point comes in touch with an extraterrestrial being. Some of the items on the disc incorporate north of 35 sounds that are one of a kind to Earth, pictures of day-to-day existence on our planet, north of 60 minutes of Western popular music, and hello messages from various former U.S. presidents that have been translated into 55 distinct dialects. Anyway, as of 2022, NASA researchers have dismissed speculations that the space apparatus might be heavily influenced by aliens. Explorer 1 has various security protocol highlights that will be activated in the event that the rocket is ever in danger, yet none of those protocols have at any point been activated. To add to that, Explorer 1's receiving wire keeps on pointing toward Earth. However, all things being well, makes the peculiar signals being sent by Explorer 1 significantly more mysterious. It has never conveyed these garbled messages before, even when it was in something very similar condition. So how can it be that the space apparatus is presently conveying these messages at the point when it's so distant from Earth? Obviously, there's a going thing on. However, concurring to NASA's undertaking manager for the Explorer mission, this is generally on course for a space apparatus as old as Explorer 1 is. It has been in space for over 45 years as of now, and it's currently at a record distance of 23.6 billion kilometers, or around 157.5 cosmic units from the Sun. The farther the rocket gets, the less dependable the correspondence between us and the rocket will be. To add to that issue, there's no reliable method of fixing Explorer 1 if something ever goes wrong. NASA doesn't have the capacity to make a space apparatus that can make a trip into interstellar space to go to precisely the same area as Explorer 1 and do a rescue mission in time. It's strategically and physically unimaginable. On top of that, two-way correspondence is now much slower than it used to be. Messages on average take around 21 hours to go from NASA's communication station to the space apparatus. This implies that the gamble of impacts and mishaps has been radically improved, and NASA team will most likely be unable to appropriately convey as far as emergencies. Notwithstanding all that, NASA is still hopeful that it will actually want to fix the ongoing issues that Explorer 1 has been having. It expects the rocket to keep sending more and more data about interstellar space back to Earth. The sheer distance of the rocket from Earth makes any kind of correspondence as postponed and unreliable as it might be incredibly significant for NASA. Until further notice, NASA is utilizing the rocket to test the constraints of its over a wide span of time-space apparatus. This information will end up being vital for all future space missions that the space organization does. However, there will come when Explorer 1 is no more ready to speak with us back on Earth. And as time passes, the chances of a mishap suddenly bringing the mission to an end are greater. Up to this point, it has figured out how to outlast the conditions encompassing it. As Explorer 1 proceeds with its single process through the profundities of interstellar space, it serves not just as a demonstration of human creativity and investigation, yet additionally as a significant logical instrument that persistently challenges our comprehension of the universe. Sent off north of 4 many years ago, this sturdy test has far surpassed its unique mission goals and keeps on providing valuable information. Yet, for certain intriguing secrets arising as of late, quite possibly the most exceptional parts of Explorer 1's mission is its longevity. Planned and worked during the 1970s, the shuttle was outfitted with innovation undeniably less progressed than what we have today, yet it has persevered through the harsh states of room, enduring astronomical beams, outrageous temperatures, and the huge vacancy beyond the edge of our solar system. Its solid development and vigorous frameworks have permitted it to outlive assumptions, communicating information back to Earth even at its current distance of north of 23 billion kilometers. The logical bits of knowledge given by Explorer 1 have been absolutely notable, from definite imagery of Jupiter's fierce climate to the disclosure of many-sided ring structures around Saturn. The rocket has extended our insight into the external planets and their moons. These disclosures not just energized logical interest, yet in addition enlivened future ages of room voyagers and specialists. One of Explorer 1's most praised accomplishments was its entrance into interstellar space, denoting the first time a human-made object had wandered past the impact of our sun. This noteworthy achievement authoritatively affirmed